This part may well say, I want the man or woman of my dreams. And this part is going, when did our dreams happen? Remember that last nightmare we were in?
Thank you so much for joining us again on Second Act TV. So happy to welcome back Dr. Gary Salyer, the relationship expert and author of Safe to Love Again. Gary, thanks for joining us again.
Well, thank you, Silky. Always a pleasure to be here.
I like our topic today, Gary. It's actually refers to a course that you're doing. We'll talk about that later. But the idea of love traps. And I thought that was really interesting the way you put that together. So, well, first of all, what is a love trap? Tell our audience what do you mean by that?
You know, a love trap, I first thought of it. There was an old book in the 60s by a psychiatrist, Eric Berne. And it was called The Games People Play. And there was one that was called Now I've Got You. Now I've Got You. It was a game people play. And there are certain ways that our brain sets up safety protocols, what I call safety programming.
Okay.
Once you've been hurt or disappointed, your brain sets up, there could be more, but 7 really core predictable ways a brain will tend to filter itself out from the very love you want. Now, this part may well say, I want the man or woman of my dreams. And this part is going, when did our dreams happen? Remember that last nightmare we were in? So the stuff down here, your deeper part, you called your limbic system, your attachment system, it may not have quite the same view. And so it lays traps for whenever love comes knocking on the door, there's that bear trap out there by the street.
Yeah.
And there's 7 of them. So it's mostly safety programming.
Yeah. Well, you say here the first one, let's talk about that, the hopeless trap, that you look around and see happy couples everywhere and wonder if all the good ones are gone. What does that mean, the hopeless trap?
The funny thing about hopeless is I began to realize it's a separate trap when I've heard particularly women and men from their 20s to their 70s all saying the same thing. It's hopeless. There's no good ones left. And I think when I heard a 23-year-old say that, I'm going, wait a second.
Yeah. You don't know anything.
What do you mean? And I began to realize that when your brain wants to protect you from ever reaching out to love, it deletes any possibilities so you don't find a good one and reach out. If it deletes the possibility. So hopeless sounds really terrible, but it's a part of your brain saying if we don't see, we don't reach, we don't get hurt. Hopeless is the way your safety brain creates a friend so that you don't ever see. And it's like, there could be the good one right over there. And then the brain goes, no, there's no one. Look at all those guys. See, none of those guys, none of those women are really the right ones. Oh no, don't look over there. Don't look behind that curtain. It's a selective view to make sure you don't actually get interested again.
Well, and it's our neural pathways that we've set with past experiences. I mean, this gets pretty complicated, really. It's super, super interesting if you want to take a deep dive, which of course we don't have time to do. But our brain really messes with us. And it's very helpful to understand maybe why. So really do pay attention. If you can identify with any of these, you may want to get into this a lot deeper. You have number 2 here, Gary, the danger trap, that every time you get close to someone, you hear the echoes of past hurts, etc. Talk to me about the danger trap.
Well, the danger trap is when everybody's been hurt. This is probably the grandmother of them all, being honest with you. It probably is the one where all of this come from. But whenever we've been hurt, some part wants to make sure we never get hurt again. So how many times have you seen maybe new couples or older couples say, oh my God, they're just like my ex? There's a filter going on that says, ways someone could hurt me like my ex. And that danger, which was then, That may not be now. Your brain, when it sets up that, it was legitimate at one time. You probably would have gotten hurt. But when you get older and wiser or out of that relationship, not so much. The part that does that type of safety programming lives in a part of the brain that doesn't do narrative time scaling. So it's once a danger, always a
Always
danger.
a danger. Yeah, you're bringing old hurts to the table, old constantly. You can't. I mean, I think a lot of us can identify with that, and that is something to concentrate on because it will sabotage or ruin it, relationship eventually. How about the broken down trap? That kind of goes along with that. Past relationships have left you defeated and feeling worthless.
Imagine you've been through a series of painful relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And you start saying, oh my gosh, the part of me that picks partner must be, what's that next word? Broken. What's wrong with me? And why can't I find the one I love? And what we do, this is often the feeling of unworthy, broken down, not enough, unworthy, undeserving. Usually that feeling was already there.
Mm-hmm.
And what we do is we turn people into projects because we don't feel we're enough and deserving of the real one. And then when we pick the people we think we're only deserving, and we have those cycles of inappropriate partners, it reinforces the feeling that I'm
That we're
broken.
worthless. Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
a real nasty little trap that gets you and your and somebody else's angle put in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the key here is to replace that old feeling of unworthy.
Mm-hmm.
And so anytime we've had a series of painful relationships, I know after my second divorce, it did a number on me.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, first time I could blame everybody else. Second time, what was wrong with me?
Mm-hmm.
And anybody that's been through a series of
Mm-hmm.
relationships, ghosting is perpetual.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anytime you get that message, I'm not enough,
Mm-hmm.
broken down,
Mm-hmm.
that's a trap for love.
Yeah. Well, and you do have to look at yourself because there
Yes.
could be something wrong with you. I mean, that's what we're trying to fix. It's just,
Yes.
I guess, knowing that it's fixable and recognize it.
Now, there's a difference between me and our core self and what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, if you're anxious or avoidant, there are some things that could be upgraded, but you weren't born that way. Or if you have volatile ways of communicating and you wonder why the people keep leaving you, there
Mm-hmm.
are things to adjust.
Yeah.
But deep down inside, we
Mm-hmm.
were born to feel worthy.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
does not mean, I do think you could take it to an extreme saying, well, I saw a meme the other day that says if somebody, if somebody breaks up with you, it's because they can't handle you. Well, not
No.
necessarily. Not necessarily. But this
Yeah.
broken down trap is often that meme comes from grandiosity, I think. Right. But this is one where you kind of feel one down in a relationship of love, and
Mm-hmm.
we'd like you to feel equal again so that you can find your equal.
I like this one too, the fate trap, that
Yes.
you live in a romantic Groundhog Day.
Exactly. A lot of people get to the place, well, I've done it so many times, I guess it's the only thing that I can ever expect. Now, and what we don't get, there's no such thing as fate. Even Jung said, if we don't deal with our unconscious, you will call it fate and it will control you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I say is it's your attachment patterns
Mm-hmm.
that are creating this, not fate. A
Mm-hmm.
patterning that is around safety. And so it's not fate. There's no fickle finger of fate pointing the finger at Silke Schwarzkopf, thou shalt not have a good relationship, or whoever you are out there. This is your attachments,
Mm-hmm.
either telling you what you can have or not. So what we want to do is to help you understand your attachment patterns. Work with it so you can decide what you want instead of having it decided for you. Fate is a way of feeling disempowered.
I was just going to say, fate can be a huge excuse. Well, it wasn't meant to be, or that if it was meant to be, it would happen. It's a great way to just put up a barrier and not do anything. Here's another one that's difficult to escape: the perfection trap. Another great defense mechanism that, unless everything is flawless, everything is perfect, the relationship is not right.
This one is an interest, the ones that have the long list. I've
Mhm.
literally had 3 clients over the years that came in with PowerPoint on their laptops, list, bulleted lists on PowerPoint. One was on Excel. Kid you not. One was 57, the other was 54. I mean, all these perfect things to make sure nothing ever goes wrong again. And they have learned that imperfection equals failure. That, and when it keeps you swiping left, or in serial relationships and breakups,
Right.
it's a pretty painful trap. How many times do we want, if we get 65 on our list, what happens when they come with 65? It's funny for not feeling good enough. And then you think, oh, there's another thing to add to my list.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, if you match, that's fate.
Yes. Yeah, of course it is.
That's funny. Here, this is an interesting one too. The family doom trap.
Oh,
That you
yes.
feel trapped in a love story written by past family members. I never would have thought of this.
Oh, that was my favorite. I remember watching my mom watching soap operas, right? Everybody's divorced, everybody's miserable. And I see this dysfunctional soap opera and I laugh at the ludicrousness of it. And she says to me, nobody has any, but this is exactly what our relationship's like. This is what yours will be like too.
Mm.
To which the 17-year-old Gary said, then you can shoot me now.
Yeah, please.
But that
Yeah.
was the whole story. And one time she even said, what do you think? You're better than us? That you can have a better life than us?
Mm.
And a story that parents tell predicts their kids' love style. What you have to do is tell your brain to have a different experience. And you do that by changing your story. Whatever
Mm.
story you tell is the one your brain goes, oh, that's what I've got the permission for. So
Mm.
this is a particularly pernicious little thing
Yeah.
because it gets embedded so early you don't even know that the story you tell is like a cheap Harlequin romance, the same plot with just a different cover on the top.
Yeah. I mean, it's so obvious. Yet, like I said, when I read this, well, that's interesting. This is there.
This
The
is
fam.
more
Yeah.
belonging. This is the power of belonging. The others are
Yeah.
more based on fear. This one is when out of love we
Mhm.
say to our families, Mom, Dad, saw you had a divorce. Promise no, I won't make you look bad. I'll have a
Wow.
divorce. It's a
Wow.
little different, but it's still a trap.
Still, yeah, exactly. Well, here finally, your last one, number 7, the indecision trap, that you're constantly swiping left and not giving anybody a real chance.
Yes. Now this is a little similar to fate, but it's a little different. The indecision trap comes from a part that either doesn't trust yourself. If I can just not decide, then I won't
Mm.
get hurt. And
Okay.
so, and after my own second divorce was, I didn't trust my decisions anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I was caught in this fear of what if I choose another one? Feeling
Yeah.
disempowered. I did not trust myself. And the solution is to work through those feelings of disempowerment,
Mm-hmm.
obviously releasing some of that past pain, but working with the prefrontal cortex so that you not only have a better story, but you can control those hurt parts of yours and you
Mm-hmm.
can dialogue and deal with them with a wise higher self. And we
Yeah.
all have one of those. And we can trust a wise higher self. And if the part that got hurt is running it, not so much. So the indecision trap is where you've really got a part that says, I'm afraid to choose again.
Mm-hmm. Well, you alluded, just now to it. It's really the solution to all of this is to rewire your neural pathways. And that sounds super complicated. Like I said, I know you have a course that really takes people deeply into this if they can identify, with any of these patterns. Oh, yeah, that's me. I mean, I can identify with a lot of them. But for the sake of this segment, what exactly do you mean by rewire your story? Is there an easy answer to that?
Well, there is. If we work with just the part of you that's got an identity and tells stories, what's called the prefrontal cortex, you coaching or just traditional talk therapy is not going to help it, because the solution is down here where safety
Mm.
and rules for attachment and models for relationships. And we have what's called neural networks. And if we don't talk to the neural network and help it make better friends, if there's a reticular activation system called your salience network that's creating filters, we'd like to make it safe for it to be able to see the possibilities for love. So you can see what's standing right in front of you. So it's working with what I call helping neurons make better friends. If we work with that, now we can change things. And when people
Yeah.
wonder why their dating coaching or their isn't working, it's because you got to work deeper. And that's what I do with my one-on clients. And I said, how do I create a course that actually helps neurons make better friends? And it's just
Wow.
not about information, it's transformation. And that's what I spent the last 3 years making,
So
is a
interesting.
course that helps people change their attachment style, work with their deep neural networks so their neurons are firing off what love needs instead of what it doesn't need.
Well, Gary, you're always full of it.
We try.
I mean, so information that I've never heard that really. And I've talked to you now for what, 5 years? We have so much to learn about ourselves and about our brain, and how we really do hold the power to change. So I will link to all of your information as usual, to your book, Safe to Love Again, and absolutely to the course. I know you have some live, you have some that will be pre-recorded depending on when our viewers see this video, but do check it out. If this hits home, this might be something really super interesting. So
By the way, I think the universe must have wanted this course out. I actually had a Hollywood director help me film and edit this course 4K. It's like movie quality.
I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it because it sounds super interesting. So just be sure to check our show notes. All the links will be below, including the book, all of your information. If you want to get in touch with Dr. Salyer directly, you can do that as well. And Gary, I look so forward to seeing you again soon on Second Act TV.
Me too.